welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast with your host, Sana, where we dive into transformative stories, practical tools, and insightful conversations to help you live your best, most intentional life. Today, I am thrilled to welcome a powerhouse of energy and wisdom, Robert J. Hunt, aka the Accountability Guy. Listeners, Robert is not only an executive coach, business owner, and co author of the book Nobody Cares Until You Do, but he's also a family man with a passion for faith, purpose, and helping people unlock their full potential. Known for his dynamic insights on accountability, Robert will challenge us how to rethink how we approach goals and responsibility. So get ready for a fun, energetic, and thought provoking chat that just might help you break through your barriers and live the life you really want.
Yes.
Excuse me. Robert, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor having you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I love your introduction. That's great stuff.
Great, Robert. So why do you think accountability is such a powerful tool for personal and professional growth? And how can we start embracing it more in our lives?
Accountability is one of those words that people misunderstand. We use it a lot, but we use it sometimes in the wrong way. The basic definition of accountability, as we like to talk about it, is you own it. That's simple enough. You own it. So if you're accountable to do this, you're accountable to do that. You have this responsibility. You own it. It's your thing. And I don't think we look at it very well. We've created a world where people cannot be accountable and get away with it or just exist and there's no consequences. But key to having accountability in your life is the acknowledgement that your actions do have consequences. If you don't pay your bills, you're accountable to that. If you don't go to work and you don't have a job, you're accountable for the effort or the lack of effort. If you don't take time to develop a good, healthy marriage or to spend time with your kids so they grow up to be good people, you have to own all of that. You could do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you have to own it. And I don't think we create that expectation in the world anymore. These days, people can do whatever they want. They can go on social media and say ridiculous things, and nobody ever comes over and punches you in the face when you say something that is wrong or rude or something. And so we've created this whole world where there's not the expectation really of accountability. We do want people to be responsible. Responsible is different than accountable. And if we're really going to see the life that you really want, if you really want to pursue the life you really want, you must learn to be accountable for it.
I agree. Well, that's a very strong outlook on this, and thank you for sharing this, Robert. So you have mentioned that no one holds someone else accountable, only
Yeah.
they can. So could you expand on what that means and why it is so important?
We say that in business a lot. I'm going to hold you accountable for this, or even for our kids. I'm going to hold you accountable to do this. But you really can't. If you look at a scenario, you say, okay, this is my employee. I want you to answer the phone call every time. I want you to return people's phone calls within 24 hours every time someone calls. And if they don't do it, what do? You go back and say, hey, you're supposed to call someone back in 24 hours. Yeah, I was really busy and I didn't get around to it. Okay, we got to do that. And so nothing ever gets done. We just yell at them a lot, or we tell them we're not happy with them, or we threaten them. But at the end of the day, if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. You can't make them do it. And if you fire that person, let's say you think, okay, this is ridiculous. Every time they get a phone call, they don't return it in 24 hours. I'm just going to fire that person. When you fire them, they're not being accountable. You are. You're the one who said, I want you to do this in 24 hours. You didn't do it. Therefore, I'm firing you. So now you're accountable for what they didn't do, but they just leave and go to another company and they're still not accountable. And so if you want accountability, you have to drive it. You have to want it. And that really comes from looking at your life and saying that I'm not having the life that I really want. If I'm not having the life that I really want, what am I willing to do about it? That's why in our book that we wrote, Nobody Cares Until You Do, we put an assessment on there. where anyone can go in and take a satisfaction assessment and they can say where they're satisfied or not in their personal and their professional life. And when you be really, really honest with yourself and you say, hey, I'm not happy with how much I weigh or how my marriage is or how my kids are or my finances, or I'm not happy with my employees or with the investors or the way we do customer service.
Mhm.
Whatever you declare, then you can look at it and go, okay, well, now what are you going to do about it? And that's the moment of accountability where you decide, hey, am I going to own this or am I going to blame the people or make excuses for why we can't do something or say there's nothing I could do about it or just wait and hope it gets better? Those are the four traps that we outline in our book that people do all the time. My marriage isn't the way I want it to be. Well, there's nothing I could do about it. Well, yeah, there is. There's always something you could do about it. My employees don't try. They don't work hard for me. Okay, what are you going to do about it? Well, there's nothing I can do. Yes, there is. And I'm not telling you to run around and fire everybody, but if you proactively, this is where you drive accountability for your company. You know, employees will get frustrated, they'll get tired, they'll get uninterested. So what are you doing proactively to be accountable to the results you want from them? You've got to train them. You've got to do things to let them know they matter. You got to create a culture where people give a damn, where they show up at work and they actually care and they try. That is your job as the owner of the company, is to do something proactively to create a place where people care. Now, if they don't care, that's your burden, that's your responsibility. But if you're going to own it, you're going to be accountable. You proactively create something. You proactively change things. You go to counseling for your marriage. You stop eating donuts for your weight. You go back and you start spending time with God and pursuing your relationship and enjoying your faith. All these things, you got to own them so that you could actually live the life you really want.
Wow. Wow. That, this completely shifts perspectives on so many situations we face on our day-to-day lives. So, thank you. Thank you for putting light on this, Robert. Also, when we now realize that we should hold ourselves accountable, what are some common barriers, people face when trying to hold themselves accountable, and how do you suggest they can overcome these barriers?
One of the biggest barriers is that we already think we're being accountable. And you showing up at work and having a job and getting a paycheck is not accountable. That's responsible. And so when we look at our marriages or our kids or our finances, well, we have money. Well, I fed my kids. Well, I talked to my spouse the other day. That doesn't mean that you're accountable. Accountable is looking at your life and saying, what do I want it to look like? And making a plan to go do that. Responsible is, hey, my kids are horrible brats. Well, I'll punish them and take away their phone. That's being
Mhm.
responsive. You're responding to what's coming your way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Accountable is to say, I'm going to take account for what I have. I have a wife. She deserves my attention and I love her. So if I want a good marriage, I have to spend time with her. I have to listen to her. I have to do the things that she cares about because I want a good marriage. And I can't just ignore her and go, how come our marriage is no good? Well, it's because I don't do anything to make it good. So everything in your life, from your faith to your finances to your health, everything is yours and you own it. And how you deal with it and what you do with it is up to you. But you got to first recognize that it's yours and stop just being okay with okay. Look at the life you really want and go chase that. So that's the first step, is just recognizing I'm not satisfied. Again, if you go to nobodycaresbook.com, you could take this assessment for free online. We don't charge people for it. We don't take your information. We just want it to be a blessing to you. So go there and be totally, totally honest. Look at your company in the eyes of what you thought it was going to be the day you started it and compare it to where it is now. A lot of times we lose the edge of what we really want. We just get complacent. We go, well, that's just how it is. But it's not what you want. If you're going to pursue the company you want, what should your employees look like? What should your customers look like? How much profit should you making? How much time do you get to go home and relax instead of having to work every day of the week? What is the life that you're creating, and are you getting what you want? The answer is usually no. But instead of changing it and making hard decisions, people learn they try to optimize a crappy situation they ended up with instead of stepping back and saying, "Stop it. This is not the life I want. Here's what my life should look like." And then go work on that. And that's the real challenge, is to be honest with yourself enough to see the difference.
Wow. Wow. Great. Also, on the flip side, Robert, some would argue that too much focus on accountability can lead to perfectionism and burnout. So, how do you balance striving for accountability with giving yourself some grace or cutting some slack?
I don't think accountability ever is the quest for excellence. I think it's the quest for what you want because nothing could be in just one area. If you just only measure how much money you make, then you're neglecting the other parts of your life. That's not excellence. Excellence requires that everything be above the zero. You can't have anything falling apart. You can't say, hey, my company did $48 million this year, but my marriage is falling apart. Hey, I made an extra $500,000 in profit that I got to take home personally, but I have all this exhaustion and anger and frustration in my life. You have to have a balance of who you are. There's never a such thing as work-life balance, but you should be the balance of the person you want to be. I should have a healthy marriage and a healthy body, and I should rest and have fun with my friends and have a successful business. And so you might have to take the business down just a little bit in the effort you put towards it so you can go play and rest and have fun with your life. So
Mm,
the accountability is to the life you want, not to how rich your business is, how much money you make, or how many kids you have. There really is the measurement is this is the life I want to live. This is the person I want to be. This is the business I want to run. Am I pursuing excellence in that area? And you're accountable to doing all areas of your life, not neglecting one for the other.
mm, I
And the simple example would be, let's say you have a really great company and you don't spend time with your spouse. Then all of a sudden your spouse says, "Hey, I'm getting it. I want a divorce." Well, now all of a sudden you'll have to change all of your attention and time towards working through this divorce, selling the house, splitting up the money, who gets the kids. All this attention and time will be put towards something that you neglected before, but now you have to pay attention to it. Well, why not proactively create the life you want so you don't get divorced? Because when you're going to fix all this divorce stuff, you're not focused on the company. At least you're not focused on it well. And so you're going to take the time to go fix your problems that you got from your divorce. Why not take the time to invest in your marriage now before it falls apart? So you can still have a successful business, but don't neglect any area of your life at the expense of another area. You could be more of a business person than you are a dad. Maybe you don't work at the school when kid picking up their kids, walking kids across the crosswalk, or maybe you're not the one who bakes cookies for everyone at holidays. Fine, do that,
yeah.
but do be involved in the lives that are important to you. Do be the dad who sits and has dinner with them at least a few nights a week. Do be the dad that comes to their school plays and soccer games. And you live the life you want in all areas of your life, not just one.
Mm, I agree. I agree. So, in your experience, how do you recommend leaders foster a culture of accountability within their teams? Without creating a fear of uh, micromanagement. Uh, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you can never manage people to be accountable. They have to do it on their own. Like we said earlier, no one can
Yeah.
hold anyone accountable. But you can create a world of accountability by the way you act. Here's an example. Most leaders don't put things in writing because they don't want to be accountable to what they say. Hey, we're going to do this. And then, 2 months later, they go, no, let's not do that. Let's go do this. And they can change their mind whatever they want because it's their company or they're in charge. And people have to put up with it. And you're affecting the trust level of the organization. You're wasting that time and money because people started working on something. You changed your mind later on. So if you're going to be accountable as a leader, put it in writing, tell the whole team what you're doing, involve them in what's going on so that you can't change your mind whenever you feel like it. And the more that you model accountability to the things that you said you're going to do, the more other people will follow it. But most leaders say one thing and do another, and they're not accountable to the behaviors they're demanding on other people. So it becomes a joke. So if you want to foster a culture of accountability, it starts with you as the leader. Do what you say you're going to do, deliver on the promises, stay focused, and talk with your team so they see it and you model the behavior that you want everyone else to follow.
Mhm. Makes sense. Makes sense. And also, isn't the concept of self accountability a bit idealistic. What about people who struggle with motivation? Can external accountability actually sometimes be more effective for them?
Well, nobody can motivate anybody either. Don't give you all these contrarian perspectives, but the reality is, some people hire me as a motivational speaker when I come in to talk with people. I can't motivate them. You can't motivate people. A pep talk, hey, we could do it, let's go, is not motivating. Anything you do to try and motivate somebody else, it doesn't work unless they want to be motivated. But what you can do is create a world where they are free to be motivated. What happens in most companies is we have such bad leaders that oppress people. They're rude, they're negative, they ignore them, they treat them poorly, they change their mind all the time. There's no consistency. And so it's defeating. And so if we could just stop being the kind of leaders who defeat people and take away their motivation, people will self-motivated. I mean, most people, they actually care. They actually do want to be a good employee. They do want to help the company. But if I go to work every day and it's full of politics and people are backstabbing each other and the boss is a jerk and my customers are a jerk and I'm not happy with the way things are here at the office, I don't feel motivated. I can't get motivated. It's defeating. So create a world where people will self-motivate, and then you don't need to hold them accountable or hold them to be motivated. They'll do it on their own because they like where they work.
But that's a really, really good answer, Robert. Wow. Okay. And also, how can you share a personal story where accountability significantly impacted maybe your life or career, and what lessons we can take from it?
Yeah, for us, we outline this in the book that my beautiful wife, Kathy, and I, we owed $90,000 in debt that did not include the house or the cars. And in the beginning of 2019, we had our annual planning session. She's also my business partner. And we said, what do we want our lives to look like? And what we really came down to is we want to honor the Lord with our lives. We want God to be pleased with the way we live our lives. But we looked at our lives and we weren't happy. We weren't satisfied with our lives. We argued a lot, mostly over money. We constantly lived in stress and worry and fear. We were anxious and overwhelmed and the world was just coming down on us. And so we just decided we needed to really fix this problem. And every year we'd make excuses or blame or say we can't do something about it. And we'd wait and hope it got better. And every year it got worse and worse and worse until we got to $90,000 in debt. So that year we said, look, if we don't figure out some killer solution to get this fixed, we're going to sell the house and take the money out of it and pay off all our debt. We did not want to do that. We loved our home and we'd been there for 6 years and we really liked it. But we knew that this was not a way to live anymore. So the year got progressively worse. Even at one point in September, I got vertigo for 16 days and I couldn't even work or sit up or sleep or anything. And I think it was just the way the Lord was telling me, stop kicking it down the road and own this thing. And it was in September after that vertigo went away that we decided, okay, we got to own it. We got to own our world. And we decided to hire a real estate agent and make plans to sell the house. And we did. So we sold it in March of 2020 when the world was shutting down for COVID. We moved into a rental home that we live in today. And we took all that money that we got from selling the house and we paid off everything. And we had no debt and we started over. And the peace that I had was amazing. I had been living in such stress and worry for so many years, I forgot what it felt like to have peace. But I found peace again because I was not burdened with fear and worry that how was I going to survive? And because I did that, and because we owned our financial problem, I started looking at everything else in my life and say, what else am I not happy with? I'm not happy with my marriage. All we do is argue for the last 5 years. Let's go to counseling and let's work on this. And so we did. We met with a counselor and we talked about some of our challenges. And I had got pretty fat. I was in up 260. I was the fattest I'd ever been in my life. And I thought, well, I'm just eating so poorly. I was kind of stress eating through my junk. And I realized I wasn't happy with my weight, but I needed to own that too. And so I went on a diet, stopped drinking bourbon like I was doing so much during the days of COVID when there was nothing else to do but drink bourbon and eat chips and all that nonsense. So
Well,
I was looking at everything in my life and saying, am I living the life I want? And if the answer was no, I owned it and I worked on it. And that changed our marriage, my health, my faith. I was angry at God that God had not fixed my problems, but God was not responsible for my problems. I was. And he helped me get through it once I owned it, but it was still my responsibility, which all that faded into my work. I approached situations in the work world with confidence. I wasn't worried if I lost a customer because I didn't care because I didn't owe any money. If I lose a customer, I still got plenty of money. I'm doing great. And it was a really confidence builder because I didn't have to hold on to things or approach situations in fear. So the ripple effect of getting rid of the one thing that was the most annoying in our life empowered us to see that we can own it and change our lives. And it did. It changed our business. It changed our marriage. It changed everything.
Wow. Wow. That's really, really inspiring, Robert. And uh, before we wrap up this conversation, if our listeners they wish to connect with you, Robert, and explore more about your book as well as your powerful insights on accountability and execute them in their life, how they can do that.
Yeah, you can go to nobodycaresbook.com. And I would encourage everybody to go take the satisfaction assessment. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. We don't track you, but we want you to really be honest with yourself. Look at that. You say, am I living the life I want? And then based on that, send me an email. My contact information's in there. Let me know what you learned and what you're going to do and how you're going to own it. I want to know your story. I want to encourage you as you're in your journey to owning it and having a life you really want.
Right? We'll have all the details in the show notes. And Robert, thank you so much for bringing your passion and expertise to today's conversation. I think these were some really unique, different perspectives and insights on something as, uh, you know, important as accountability. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
So, listeners, accountability isn't just about checking boxes, it's about unlocking freedom, purpose, and the best version of yourself. And yeah, I would like to add it's not about anyone else holding you accountable. It's about you choosing to step up for yourself. So let's take that to heart this week. Don't forget to check out Robert's book, Nobody Cares Until You Do, for more powerful insights, and also go to his website, take the assessment, and yeah, find it out. And as always, thank you to all of you for tuning into the Mindful Living podcast. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a little extra accountability inspiration. Until next time, stay mindful and stay awesome. Thank you.